people? This is William Jones making videos about leaving religion. The purpose of the videos is to get you to think. Turn your brains on and think. And use logic and use reason and realize that religion is fake. For this video, it is April 13th, 2020. At this point, most of the country is on a lockdown because of the COVID-19, or known as the coronavirus outbreak. So that's what's going on. That's where the world is today. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to cover a couple of topics and just allow us to think. Let's make sense out of things. Let's just think. There's nothing wrong with thinking. You got a brain, use it. That's what religion does. Religion takes away your ability to think. It takes away your ability to use logic and reason. It tells you what to think, or it gives you the thought, so there's no need to think. And once they give you the thought, then you have to protect the thought, because the thought is based or not based in reality. Before I get into all of this, let me say from the last video that I dropped, and I mentioned the word nihilist. So, I guess I told the word all up. I said nihilist. I don't know what I said, nihilist, but I found out there's either nihilist or nihilist. I looked it up, it's either way. So nihilist or nihilist, like read and read, the and the. So either nihilist or nihilist. And it's a word I don't plan on using much. And thank you for those that corrected me on that. Kay, I saw you did it too. So thank you for those that corrected me on that. I make mistakes too. Hey, a word I don't use, I didn't know it, and I think it's foolish to say I'm one of those people, whatever they are, okay? But y'all noticed that during this coronavirus thing, and Easter was just Sunday. So Easter was Sunday, and Easter is Black Friday for these churches. That's when the people that don't go to church, go to church. They feel guilty, as religion makes you feel. They feel guilty. They believe in God. They believe in Jesus, but they just don't go to church or read the Bible or live by anything like that. But they'll go there one time a year. Feel like I'm making my sacrifice for the year to cleanse all the sins that I've done. And they show up and they get their little money and they out. And this year, Easter was closed. Now, thankfully, I guess for some of these churches, you can see these pastors, they started live streaming, and now they cash apping, right? Probably PayPal. I don't know what Zelle. You name it, they were using it to get their money, because we know church is business. Church is about business. Even in a time right now where it seems like the church is supposed to help people, where the churches shouldn't be the building anyway, but it is the people. But y'all can collect money all the time, but I don't know when it's time for you to dish out like an insurance company. You don't really want to get that money. We love taking your money, but don't want to pay the claim. So, you know, I know people passing my power bill. I mean, hey, pray. You say pray when I was giving you the money. You know, when you giving the money, it's, hey, get the money. When it's time for them to give you money, they're going to tell you need to pray. Okay. Why you can't go to the pastor and say, you know, when God told me to tell you, pastor, to write me a check for $1,000 so I can pay my bills. That's what he told me. Now, if you tell a pastor that, he's not going to believe it. But yet, he can sit in front of a congregation every Sunday, right? 52 Sundays, and tell people what God told him, and it's legit. You see how that works? It works one way, but not the other way. So when I was giving you the money that was legit, okay, I gave you the money based on what you said. But now you can't give me no money based on what I said? I mean, right now, religion is on its heels. It's being exposed for being what it is, fake. You know, I had a brother talking with me, a Christian brother, a Christian leader, and I'm telling him, I'm saying, you know, Christianity in the real world is nothing. You know, he wants sources. They always said, I need sources. I said, what I'm saying is the source. I don't need another source. What I'm telling you is the source. So now I got to write it down and then somebody else say it, then it's legit, but it's not legit. When I say it, I say, well, come on, see, this is what they can't do. They can't go into reality. I said, look, in the midst of this pandemic, I'm watching the news. I don't see not one news channel anywhere saying that doctors are consulting the Christians about the cure. Doctors, or the CDC is looking at the church to get some of this healing power from Jesus. The government is looking for God to give them answers to how to handle this pandemic. I'm like, y'all are the same as everybody else right now. You mean absolutely nothing. You're not special now when something's going on. When this is your time to shine, you're just as dull as anything. You're dull. Your light does not illuminate. So the church isn't shining. I said, when children go missing, they don't look for your prophets to give them answers of the location of this child. And I said, I could go on and on. Think about it. When do they matter? What do they do that sets them apart to make us be like, hey, we need that? Absolutely nothing. Right now, church doors are closed. Why? Because, like I said before, and I'll say it again, it's in Romans chapter 13, in their Bible, God is the government. The government says close the doors, and their doors are closed. The government is fining churches. They can shut you down. Why? Because God is the government, not your Jesus, not your Yahweh. None of that. They say close, you close. And if you got a 501c3, you closed. Don't make waves, stay in line, and we'll get along fine, right? So that's how this works. They don't shine right now. There's nothing about them that makes them special at all. Absolutely nothing. So let's see what happens when this is all. We all know some of them will sit around, they just waiting to be like, look, God did it. God gave them the cure. God gave them the cure, but y'all didn't lay not one hand on somebody, as your Bible claims in the book of Mark chapter 16 at the end, right? That they shall lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. None of that happened. I don't know if it'll probably be a vaccine. I don't know the conspiracy theories behind it, but it'll probably be a vaccine, something to get rid of it. We'll see. But that doesn't matter, because as far as Christians are concerned, they could turn any situation into God did it. God are the gaps. No matter how it happened, we can't explain it, God did it. How did that happen? God did it. And that's what we don't need, because if we sit there and say God did it and that's the answer, we'll never look for an actual answer to things. It's a handicap. It cripples you. You praying. Forget a prayer. You don't need a prayer. Think. Figure out how you're going to do this thing. You're wasting time praying. Think. What are we going to do? Try some things. That's what you have to do. You can't sit around praying and get stuff done. You get nothing done praying. Praying is useless. It only gives you a false sense of security. So then when something happens, and it happens good, you can say, you can say, God did it. That's what you can say. So, y'all see it. They are being exposed. They tapped in. I'm watching one church program, and because I see the church, and I see a couple cars in the parking lot, so I go to their little site on Facebook for the live, and they having church service, and they got not the whole praise team, but the little praise ensemble, and everybody standing 6 feet apart. They all 6 feet apart, singing about how great God is. He's great, but you got to do social distancing. Even in the house of the Lord, where he's supposed to be, he shows up. Y'all don't believe it there because you're social distancing, keeping your distance, because you know this thing is real and your God isn't. In the back of their mind, they know this, but they can never admit it. Their mind will not let them admit it. Now I was dealing with these Christians in that same group, right? And I'm looking at these things. I figured out something about them. This is what I figured out about them. Because they keep talking about, what's your worldview? Well, when you explain to me what your worldview is, I couldn't figure out why they are so stuck on worrying about what somebody's worldview is and how they can prove to them that their worldview is wrong. Now, if you're a serial killer and you feel the need to kill people because it empowers you, well, your worldview is definitely wrong. If you're a pedophile and you figure taking advantage of little children, if that's your worldview, then definitely your worldview is wrong. If your worldview is let somebody else work 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then while they're gone making that money, you break in their house and steal their stuff, and that's cool with you, your worldview is messed up. If your worldview is you're going to try to live off of somebody else and not contribute, even though you cost the money, your worldview is messed up. But if your worldview is, I don't believe in any God or any religion, and some believe in a creator, they might be a deist, they have that. I don't really believe in your religion, I don't believe in a God, but I just believe in treating people the way I want to be treated. That's what I believe in, being nice to people, paying my bills, abiding by the law. There's nothing wrong with that worldview. You don't need a God to have that worldview. And as many times as I have explained to them what my worldview is, they still come back and say, well, what's your worldview? And I'm like, I just explained to you what my worldview is. That's my worldview. And then for some reason, there's something wrong with that because you don't believe that Jesus came back from the dead and God created everything in the Bible is real. Something wrong with your worldview because you don't believe this stuff. But this is what their deal is. Y'all check this out. Watch this. Watch this. Their life is like a game board. Monopoly, life. Take a game. It's based on the rules of that game. Now, most of us, depending on your age, we've sat for hours and played Monopoly until somebody actually won. And it can take hours. And you want Boardwalk. And what's the other one by Boardwalk? I can't remember it right now, but I know Boardwalk. And the one next to it, you get those and you throw hotels on that and you try to suck everybody dry. You try to get all 4 of them railroads. $200 a pop, right? Their worldview is based on the rules of that game. They're stuck, literally, in real life, they are stuck on the rules of the Bible. A book that was written long time ago by many different authors and edited over and over again to try to make it look like this is the same theme, but it's not. It's been proven to be mythical, right? But their so-called worldview, how they think, is based on the rules of the Bible. It's like the Matrix. When Morpheus trying to tell Neo about the agents, that no matter what, they are still based upon the laws of the Matrix. Yeah, we're in the Matrix, but we don't have to abide by the rules of the Matrix, right? That's why your worldview has to line up to them with the Bible. And I know it's true because I used to do that. I couldn't watch a movie, especially something about demons and religion, and it's not right because it doesn't line up with what the Word says. And you can't think beyond that book. You think you're outside the box when you're in Christianity, right? Or religion. You think you're outside the box when actually you're in a small box. You're in a very small box. And you can't get away from that box. That's why they can't leave that game board. I stumped them a couple of times where they will not answer my question. I'll ask the question over and over again, and they will not answer that question. Like all of a sudden now they're busy, they got something else to do, or they'll come back and they'll comment, but totally ignore the fact that I just asked the question again. Let me ask you this question again, and they will not answer it. I'll give you two of the questions I asked that they don't want to answer. Watch this. One of them was this: can a person be murdered and come back to life? They don't want to answer that. They, rather than answer the question, they attacked me. They attacked my reason for asking it rather than answer this simple yes or no question. It's either yes or it's either no. And if you're watching this video, you already know what the answer is. None of us, when we heard Tupac died, which means once he died, he was murdered. Rapper Tupac, died, right? Now his death is a murder. Did we expect him to come back? No. Rapper Biggie Smalls was, shot and killed. Did we expect him to come back? No. We can go down the list. You can go down from John F. Kennedy when he was when you're important, it's called assassination, but it's still a murder. Did we expect him to come back? No. Nipsey Hussle. Did we expect him to come back? No. Trayvon Martin. No. We could go down the list. When somebody says someone is murdered, what does that mean? They cease to live anymore. They are not coming back. So when I asked them this, and this is the crazy part, that one of the guys who's a pastor had the audacity to, what he wanted to do was have a conversation with somebody else. So on where I post something, he comments but tags some other brother. Hey, remember evangelist such and such son? And the guy like, yeah, I remember that. And the whole thing comes down to that the guy was murdered and came back to life. A lot of you not, this guy told me that, yeah, the guy was murdered, but his mom prayed over him and he came back to life. And I said, then he wasn't murdered. Oh, no, he was murdered. He was murdered. But she brought him back to life. They had pronounced him dead, put a toe tag on him, and his mom prayed for him and brought him back to life. So nobody's ever misdiagnosed someone. No one's ever misdiagnosed someone. Just because they said he was dead, does that mean it was correct? No. Sometimes the vitals can be so low, you can't detect them. In fact, back in the day, y'all know back in the day they buried a lot of people alive because they couldn't detect their vital signs, and they buried them alive, and sometimes they went back and opened up caskets and found fingernail marks on the casket where the person had woke up and realized they were in a coffin underground, and they panicked and they was clawing trying to get out. Of course, they used the oxygen, they died anyway. So they had to come up with the technique. That's why today you have what's called a wake. A wake, not a wake. A wake. I'll put it on the screen. That's where they would sit the body out overnight, mostly in the living room. And my aunt told me that about my grandfather. They set him in the living room and wait to see if they would wake up. And if they didn't wake up, then they knew that we could bury them because they are dead. And they could bury them. And they also had another technique where they would tie a string around the deceased person's wrist that went through the coffin, up through the ground, and was attached to a bell above ground. So if the person woke up, they would be moving and doing and moving and shaking, and that bell would be ringing, ding, 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 ding. That's where they got the term saved by the bell. Then they would have somebody sit out at the graveyard at night, just in case the person that was buried alive and came back, or they woke up. Hold on a second. And they woke up, and they'd be like, well, you know, they wash them overnight. They dig them up. So they would call that the graveyard shift. And that's when that came about. So people have been misdiagnosed for a long time. So how about in this case? It wasn't misdiagnosed? Because if the guy came back, then guess what? He wasn't murdered. Murder means they don't come back to life. That's what murdered means. Man, so let me get back to what I'm saying here. Murdered, but it came back to life. And a pastor said this. And then I told another pastor, dude, he came up there and he dogged me for even asking a question. You know what murder mean? Murder mean they dead. You know, they didn't come back to life. And I said, that's funny because your homeboy said just the opposite. And when I screenshot and showed him what his boy said, he flipped the script. Oh no, you don't get it. I said, no, you don't understand your worldview. I said, you just play both sides of the fence because you could not see yourself dare agreeing with the non-believer or the atheist in that group. Oh, they'll crucify you if you dare say I'm right on something. They don't like to admit they're wrong. They got to stay on that game board. They got to stay on that board because they know. And I said, this is a common sense question. They know that people are not murdered and come back to life, but they did not want to admit it. Because the dude that started the group, the main admin that's always bullying everybody, if you don't say what he wants you to say, I asked him 4 times and he would not answer me. 4 times and he wouldn't answer me. Then they got their little pawn, their little pit bull they used to snap at everybody. He always want to attack everybody. I asked him. He wouldn't answer me. What was so hard about answering the question, if a person is murdered, do they come back to life? See, the problem was they know if they say yes, then we're going to say, well, what about Jesus? So Jesus was murdered. Remember, Jesus didn't just die in the book. They beat him with the cat o' nine tails, right? 39 lashes minus 1. Made him carry his cross until Simon had to help him. They nailed him up there between his hands and his feet. They mocked him. They gave him vinegar, and he gave up the ghost. And after he was dead, they poked him in the side with the spear, and the blood and the water came out. He was dead. He had been murdered. He didn't just die a natural death. And the Bible even says that it was Pilate when the man came to ask for his body. It says he marveled that Jesus was dead. Like so soon, because they had to break the legs of the other thieves in order for them to die. Of Arimathea. Was it Joseph of Arimathea that came and got his body? He was one of Jesus' disciples and he was wealthy. So they know if they answer that question, it comes back to Jesus. So to play it safe, they wouldn't answer. Because we all know when somebody is murdered, they don't come back. And if they do come back, guess what we do know? This story is not real. The story is based in mythology. It's just a story, like it happened in a movie. It's not real. They know that. What's the other one I asked they don't want to answer? If y'all say Jesus was crucified, and crucified between 30 to 33 AD, What year was he born? According to Matthew and Luke. They don't want to touch that one. Why? Because according to the book of Matthew, Herod the Great ordered all the 2-year-olds to be killed. And that's when Jesus and his parents moved to Egypt. But if Herod the Great died in 4 BCE, well, now they're trying to switch it and say he actually died in 2 BCE. So if he died in 4 and he wanted all the 2-year-olds killed, that if Jesus was 2, he had to be born way before he had to be 2. Right? But let's go with the new one they're using. Herod the Great died in 2 BCE, which means Jesus would have to be born in 4 BCE because he'd have to be 2 years old before Herod could order all the 2-year-olds killed. See, if they say, oh, he was born in 4, then that moves him back to 8. You see, so they got that plays there. And that's in the BCE. But then, like I said, according to Luke, they go to this census during the time of one of the Caesars, and and that's when Mary has the child, and they can't answer this because that would be in the CE or AD, as you would call it. That would be in the CE. 10-year gap. They can't answer it. So rather than answer it, or one guy, he did attempt to answer it, but he answered it according to one gospel, the one about Herod the Great. Well, according to this, then Jesus had to be born in 4 BC. I said, well, what about Luke's gospel? Crickets. They don't come back. Why? Because you have no answer. Because you know a myth can be born anytime. Doesn't matter, he's a myth. That's why we talk about Easter. People are like, why is Easter different every year? Because it's not based on an actual event. It's based on the summer solstice. Is based on the sun, and not your day that he died. Because if we, when Biggie died and Tupac died, all the radio gonna play all their songs all day. Jesus has no set day he died, so it can move. It could be this week, this year. It could be 2 weeks later this year, 3 weeks early this year. It switches. There is no set date for Easter. It switches because it's not real. So now their whole game is they got to stay on the little chessboard, the little Monopoly board. They can't leave the board, and it's almost like they can't. I got to touch the Bible. I got to touch it. You can't get them away from the Bible and get them to actually think. They have to think what the Bible says. I've been there. I've been there. I can't think for myself. It has to go according to what that book says. They cannot think aside from what the book. Ask them what do they think. And it's still going to come from the book. Because they've been conditioned to believe what the book says. And if they've studied, study means study Christian propaganda and indoctrinate yourself even more. Brainwash yourself even more to make you think the book is real. The book becomes so real that you make up things in your mind to make it real. You talk to God, it's so real. You know he's real because it's so real, but it's just in their minds. Their God is based in literature. That's why they have to pull up sources from books, and this person said this, and that person said that. Oh, this person said this, and he said that. Look, somebody mentioned Jesus, but if there, like I said, if there was no name Jesus, what name were they actually mentioning? And did they mention anything about those Gospels? Because, scholars say that Jesus was a historical person. Tell the whole truth. And don't say New Testament scholars, because that's a whole different brand of scholar. When you say a New Testament scholar, that means they believe they're Christians that have they're considered a scholar, so of course they still believe the book. They're trapped by the book, so they're going to say things to make the book real, and it seems like it's real. Why? Because they're considered a scholar. When they're a New Testament scholar, you're just an apologist to me. I don't even want to hear what you got to say, because it's not real. Because when scholars say that Jesus was historical, they just mean, like I said, was a man. They do not say he was divine. They don't believe he came from God. They believe he was a man, and stories were made up about him. You do not hear any scholars talking about the Gospels are real. Yeah, he was born of a virgin. Yeah, he walked on the water. And if they do say that, find out if they are a New Testament scholar. That makes all the difference. Because anybody knows this stuff is not real. No kind of way. He's real. He's not real. Y'all got the perfect chance right now to prove he's real. So now God is based in literature, so you got to bring up literature in order for him to be real. And now they've gone back to English class, and they're bringing up all of these different type of arguments. Well, your argument wasn't based on this, and it's not structured like this. So now you have to be educated to know God. So if you're not stupid enough to just believe it, and you've asked questions and now you don't believe it, now you need to be educated to believe it. What sense does that make? Think about this. Any child, and their parents take care of them. I'm just going to say their mama because we always know about mamas. I'm a daddy, I was there, so I'm just going to say mamas for the sake of the video, right? A child doesn't have to know how to speak, walk, in order to know who they can go to provide for them what they need. When that child wants something to eat, and it could be 10 people in their house, and they'll look at it, and they will already know which one I can go to who will give me what I want. No education. They ain't been on the earth long. But they know who takes care of them. When they want that diaper change, they know who gonna run and duck. And they know who gonna go ahead and change it and get that mess off of them. They know this. And they're not educated. They don't know anything about debating. They don't know anything. But they know this. So why now all of a sudden do I have to be a college graduate with a degree in English in order for me to know who God is? So since I just don't blindly believe God is real, now you got to tell me all in the philosophical view, in this narrative, and I got to go through all of this. Now I got to be educated to believe. Not to know, but to believe. And for some reason they think them pulling up their sources about something makes the myth real. It doesn't make it real. I don't care what you pull up. There's nothing you're going to pull up about someone being murdered and then 3 days later, 3 days later, coming back to life. Even Lazarus, he wasn't murdered, he died from a sickness. And 4 days later, he was brought up. And what does the Bible say when Jesus said, roll away the stone? And they say, but Lord, he stinketh. Because they even knew that the body is what? Breaking down. It's breaking down. The bacteria in there, the gas is decomposing. In 4 days, that's why the stone is there. So that the smell stays in there. Everybody's dead in there. He's decomposing. They said that, Lord, by now he stinketh. There was no embalming fluid. That's why they buried you quickly. With the story of Ananias and Sapphira. When Ananias died, and by the time Sapphira showed up the same day, they said the same men that buried your husband are also going to bury you. The same day. So you think somebody's going to be dead 4 days, or somebody's going to be dead 3 days. 3 days where they are decomposing. and then come back to life. That's a myth all day long. I don't care what scholarly sources you pull up. That's a myth from Sunday to Saturday. It's just not real. So then they go through and they pull up certain sources, and this is their new thing. I got receipts. That mean they got proof. I got receipts. Oh, I can show what I believe. I got receipts. I got receipts. Yeah, you have receipts, but you don't have no product. I bought a weed eater that didn't work. I had the receipt, but ain't whacked no weeds. Come on. How many times have we bought something and it didn't work? But y'all bought something and don't even have the product. I got receipts. Well, okay, you got receipts. Now show me the product. But I got the receipt. I can't do nothing with the receipt. Now show me the product. You can't go to a store and say, hey, I want my money back on this and I got the receipt. Can I go to Home Depot with that drill set and say, hey, I bought this Ryobi drill set and I charged the battery, put it in, and the drill is not working, so I would like to get my money back, and I got the receipt. Here's the receipt. What is that person going to tell you? Okay, sir, that's cool, you got the receipt, but we can't exchange it until what? Till you give us the product. Nobody getting money back. You gotta have the product. And you hollering you got receipts and your God can't heal. Your God don't really show no favor. Your God don't make you no different than the next person, but you got a receipt. You got is what you got. Because if you paid for something and got the receipt but never received the product, you got. That's what happened. I got the receipt. Did you go to church on Easter? Well, no. Why not? Because, the coronavirus, and so, we're not doing no public gathering. But ain't your God mighty? You don't have a receipt? You don't have a receipt? Oh, you got the receipt? Oh, but you ain't got the product. You got receipts, but no product. Okay, be gone. Bring the product back, and then that receipt means something. They got proof on something that didn't happen. Oh, you got proof, but you still believing. That's why it's just hard to even deal with these people, because when you have people that believe in myths as real, it's hard to deal with them. Because they can't think, because their brain is stuck on having to believe this thing is real. When we know these things don't happen. We can name stuff all through the Bible and it can tell you, no, that didn't happen. What else I want to talk about here? Oh, matter of fact, speaking on that, let me mention this also. Hold on one second. Let me mention this also. Watch this. Thomas in the Bible. Doubting Thomas. Why do they call him Doubting Thomas? Why? He should be called Thinking Thomas. Common sense Thomas. We should all be like Thomas, because Thomas heard what the 10 said and said, look, he refused to believe. That's what you want. He refused to believe without evidence. Come on. We saw the Lord. Yeah, we saw him. Yeah, we saw him. I ain't believing it till I put my finger in the holes in his hand and then inside, I ain't believing it. And Thomas, I applaud you. That's how you don't believe nothing. If you don't know it, don't believe it. I don't care what they say. When you see it, then you'll know. Otherwise, if Thomas had never seen Jesus, he'd always be that disciple in the back of his mind that couldn't preach that gospel the way he wanted to, because guess what? He didn't know it. He believed it, but he didn't know it, because he never saw Jesus risen. Like Paul claimed that nobody would. It's all stories, y'all. Understand, it's all stories. But Paul never walked with Jesus, but had a vision and saw him. And by this, he creates most of the doctrine that Christians go by today, but never walked the day with the so-called Jesus, but saw him in a vision. Thomas wanted receipts, and his stuff was real. But even in that story, whoever wrote it still flipped it to make it a con, because Jesus shows up, walks through the wall, just appears through the wall. They're in a locked room, and Jesus just walks through the wall, goes to Thomas and tells Thomas, touch me, feel me. You know, he said, what do you say? Flesh and what he says? Spirits don't have flesh and bone as you see I have. And Thomas felt him and said, my Lord and my God. Then this is the con. This is the con right here. And Jesus said, Thomas, you believed, which he didn't believe, he knew. That's the con. You believed because you saw. But blessed are they that believe and see not. Blessed are they that believe and see not. Thomas didn't believe because he saw. Thomas knew because he did exactly what he said he needed in order to know that it was real. And he did that, and he knew. Now, anyone beyond that reading an account of them would have to believe. If you didn't witness it yourself, you're only stuck on belief. You can't justify the story. Wasn't there. That's hearsay to you, because they can tell you anything if you wasn't there. How many times something happened, you was around, and somebody you heard, they said this happened. I was there, that ain't happened. They lying. It did not happen that way. So, but that's a con. Blessed are they that believe and see not. And that's good, because guess what? You ain't never gonna get no proof of none of this stuff, because there's no proof to give you, because it's a religion and it's based in belief. It's based in belief. That's where it comes from. It's belief. A con man tell you that. Blessed are you because you believed and didn't see. Not I. Let me see. Alright, so let me make sure I covered everything I was talking about. Those are the things I wanted to discuss in a nutshell. So as we on lockdown, or some of y'all on lockdown, I mean the cities are locked down, what have you. Let's ride this thing out and see what happens. I know it's going to be a lot of changes after this thing happens, though. I mean, a lot of the smaller businesses are going to have it hard. You know, the Walmarts and Targets and the Krogers and the Food Lions and them, they might be okay. The Quick Trips and the 7-Elevens, the ones that are essential and can actually live through this thing. But like my AMC movie theater filed for bankruptcy, and a lot of little mom and pop stores, you know, they're going to be going through it. And you know, you still got your Burger King and McDonald's, they'll make it through, and your Chick-fil-A's, they'll make it through. You know, I'm guessing Golden Corral will make it through too. The deep pockets are going to make it. And so there's going to be a serious shift after this thing is over. And I don't know how it's going to go and what's going to happen. So where we are today, like I said, it's April 13th, people waiting on stimulus checks. And we'll see how this thing runs. And bottom line is, you say what you want to say, Trump dropped the ball. He's still blaming Obama, and you've been in 3 years. You dropped the ball. If you've been in 3 years and you ain't prepared for nothing, don't blame it on somebody 3 years ago. You had time enough to shut down the government to try to build that wall. You shut it down to get the money for that wall. You're doing everything else you want to do. You could have been ready for this pandemic. So that you dropped the ball. Don't blame it on somebody else. And then now he says, I do not, take responsibility for this. Let me get this dude out of here. With that being said, y'all, I'm out of here. I'll leave the information for the email. For those that need to contact me, I said I want to sell the shirts, but everything's locked down right now. I can't even get the shirts. So we'll see how things go. And I'll try to drop another video for y'all. Let's get back to the next Bible study video as well. And for those of you that have been out of religion, good, stay strong. Encourage those who are out. For those of you that are new, you just came out, you're on the fence. Stop playing. If you're guessing that much, you already know it's not real. Come on, ask yourself this. Can a person be murdered and come back to life? Ask yourself that. In reality, can that happen? It doesn't happen. You know the answer to it. It doesn't happen. These things do not happen. Go read all the Jesus stuff, all that stuff. You don't turn no water to wine. You don't multiply no fish. You don't walk on water. You don't bring people back from the dead. None of that stuff. Okay? So if you're on the fence, go and get off the fence and come on over here and be free and enjoy life. It's good on this side, despite what they tell you. You know what I'm saying? Live your life. You get one life to live, live it now. If you did, you'd have missed out worrying about what some dead book said that has nothing to do with you. So y'all, this is William Jones, and I am out. I will see y'all on the next video. Y'all be safe out there. Take care of your families. Use your money to take care of your families. Take care of your families. Take care of yourselves, and be safe. Be safe. And I'll see y'all on the next video. Peace.